Vadanti tat tatvavidas Tattvam yajnanamavyayam Brahmeti paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabhyate Vedanti tat tattvavidas Tattvam yajnanamavyayam Brahmeti paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabhyate. Oops, I missed someone else. Vadanti tat tattvavidas Tattvam yajnanamavyayam Brahmeti paramatmeti Bhagavan iti sabte. Ladies? Vadanti tat tattvavidas Tattvam yajnanamavyayam Brahmeti paramatmeti Bhagavan iti sabhyate. Vedanti tat tattvavidas Tattvayajnanamavyayam Brahmeti paramatmeti Bhagavan iti sabhyate. Vedanti tat tattvavidas Tattvam yajnanamavyayam Brahmeti paramatmeti Bhagavan. So Vedanti means they say, and Tat means that. And Tattvavida means the learned souls, those who have Tattva. And Tattvam, so a lot of Tattvas here, right? The absolute truth, yep, means which. Jnanam, we know what that means, right? Knowledge. The next word is an important word in this verse. Advayam, non-dual, because one could think, well, if something's non-dual, then how come right after that word comes three things? It should just be one. Right? That might be non-dual. Brahma iti, known as Brahman. Paramatma iti, known as Paramatma. And Bhagavan iti, known as Bhagavan. Sabhyate, it is sounded. So learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. The absolute truth, Srila Prabhupada's purport, is both subject and object. What does that mean? What does it mean if something is subject and object? Yeah, very good. Yes, yeah. That's, yes. So like in a sentence, right? I see the clock. Who is the subject? Me. And what is the clock? Object, right? That's right. So I'm the subject, so me, a living entity, soul, but I see something inert. I see the clock, right? So, but I'm different than the clock. Last I checked, right? But Krishna here, Prabhupada is saying, well, he's saying the absolute truth is both subject and object. So, and Mataji very wisely said, so how do you do that if it's all one? Because that you could imagine a person who has a traditional kind of Indian Mayavadi set would say, yes, it is one, right? But you very wisely have said the energy and the energetic, right? So, very good. Any other thoughts on this idea? Because we could just read that. The absolute truth is subject. I don't know. Okay. It goes in one ear and out the other. So did you just? Yeah, well, that's an interesting way to look at it. Yes, because we're also, as Mataji's saying, we're also the energy, right? What's that verse that says that from Krishna comes all kinds of energies? I was thinking of that one, maybe Ishavasha, but yeah, Parashya Shaktir Vividhaya Suyate, right? That from Krishna's. And so really, all of existence is only one of two things, either Krishna or his energy. Bus. There's no third. Well, what about kartals? No, those are included in the energy, right? Yes, Prabhu. Master and servant. Okay, so now you're taking it to a higher level, right? About relationships. So, yes, what we were talking about until you raised your hand was tattva, and now you're bringing in rasa, which is good. No, it's great. It's great, but it's sometimes good to distinguish between these two things, right? Right. Even like sometimes there's a controversy in ISKCON, right, about whether Lord Chaitanya should wear a peacock feather, right? You've heard of that, right? But really, it shouldn't be so controversial, because one is talking about tattva. Yes, we should put a peacock feather because he's the Supreme Lord, and so it kind of helps devotees when they see that to understand that he's God and he's also Radha and Krishna combined, right? But then others say, no, it ruins the rasa, or it's not the right rasa, because he comes, as you were saying, as a servant of God, right? The Lord Chaitanya comes as a devotee. So really, when you think about it, it's not that big controversy. It's just one's emphasizing tattva and one's emphasizing rasa, right? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that's wonderful. That's another way to look at it. Again, a little bit more leaning towards the rasa side, but yes, yeah. Very good. So you see, one sentence we could talk about till the end of class easily, right? Because this is not, by the way, the easiest verse in the world to understand. We understand it pretty well. We understand it, at least theoretically, by Prabhupada and the previous Acharya's mercy. They make it very clear. But Jiva Goswami can talk about this for a sandarbha, right? But this one sentence, the absolute truth is both subject and object, and there's no qualitative difference there. What does that mean? Both are saying quality, yeah, that's what it means literally, yes. When it says no quality, yeah. Okay, it all, right. Mm-hmm. And everything ultimately is spiritual in that sense, because it's coming from even material things. In one sense, a pure devotee will see, even material. Well, this is using Krishna service, but you know what I mean, microphone or whatever. I mean, directly, this is like spiritual thing. Kartals, right? Can see everything as the Prabhupada would say that a pure devotee looks at a tree and doesn't just see leaves. Right, sees that there's a living entity there, and sees that living entity comes from Krishna, and Parashya Shaktir Vividhaya Suyate and all that. Yes. So, but also that whether it's Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan, they're all spiritual, all on that same spiritual level. But that doesn't mean they're all one. And that's where some people go, right? But devotees, by the mercy of the Bhagavatam and Srila Prabhupada, get a clear understanding. Therefore, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan are qualitatively one and the same. The same substance is realized, that same spiritual absolute truth is realized as impersonal Brahman by the students of the Upanishads, so the impersonalists, which are different than Mayavadis. As localized Paramatma by the Hiranyagarbhas of the yogis, so the one who's practicing yoga, they meditate on the Lord in the heart, Paramatma, and as Bhagavan by the devotees. Okay? In other words, Bhagavan, or the personality of Godhead, is the last word of the absolute truth. Paramatma is the partial representation of the personality of Godhead, and impersonal Brahman is the glowing effulgence of the personality of Godhead, as the sun rays are to the sun god. Less intelligent students of either of the above schools sometimes argue in favor of their own respective realization, but those who are perfect seers of the absolute truth know well that the above three features of the one absolute truth are different perspective views seen from different angles of vision. So what examples, we have one here of the sun. Does anyone know any other examples that Prabhupada gives to explain the relationship between Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan? Okay, the mountain. So what's the mountain? What is the mountain example? If you're seeing far away, you'll just see like a cloud. Like, yes, okay. And then? You see the hills and the trees, and then if you're actually in the mountain, you see the ground, you see the squirrels, you see the bears, the lions, yeah, whatever, right, okay. And what's another example he gives? Train, right. When far away, you just see a light, right? And then as you come a little closer, you may see the different cars, and if it's in India, you see the first class car, the second class car. But then when you actually go in the train, you see everyone having their rotis and chai, garam pakora, right, right, chai, yeah, garam chai, right. Yeah, we should be careful that we don't sell garam chai in our next life. Right. Yeah, right. So Prabhupada gives, wonderful examples to help us understand this point, right? So none of the, like a Pakka impersonalist, not a Mayavadi. We understand the difference between impersonalists and Mayavadi, right? An impersonalist actually accepts that Krishna's body is eternal and full of bliss, but somehow or other, it's hard to understand. They just are more attracted to the impersonal feature, but they don't criticize or negate the Bhagavan feature of the absolute. Whereas in Mayavadi is basically saying that, God is deaf, dumb, mute, right, like that, right? Because they just, that it's just for our meditation when we're not very advanced, we meditate on Saguna Brahman, but ultimately the goal is Nirguna Brahman, and they have all this stuff going on. So there's a difference between, so Mayavadi Krishna Aparadhe, right, Lord Chaitanya said, or at least Krishnadas Kaviraj says, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, they're like a walking offense, right? Because they're basically just negating Krishna as the Supreme Personality of the person. Right? So we want to be careful about Mayavad philosophy, but we can say that, yes, there is an impersonal feature that Krishna creates. Right? Does anyone know the verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says that he is the basis of Brahman, he's the creator of Brahman? Yes, well that's true. Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo says that he's the creator of everything. But there's one verse that says specifically about Brahman. Very good. So this is our resident scholar? Yeah, yes, okay. Yeah, he says it so clearly. Brahmano hi pratisht aham. He's pointing to, in one other place, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Krishna is pointing to his chest, aham. Right? So, Brahmano hi pratishta, we know what pratishta means, like the basis or the cause. And so he's Brahmano hi pratish aham. She says that he's the basis of the impersonal Brahman. He makes it very clear. Right? And he's Krishna's very clear. What does he say in the 7th chapter about people who are Mayavadis, basically? Right? Yeah, abudhaya, right? He said they have no intelligence. The demigod worshippers are alpamedasa, that they have a little intelligence. And the Mayavadis, they are abudhaya, no intelligence. Yeah, abudhaya. Prabhupada's example is so nice about demigod worship, right? It's just because we can all, most of us have spent time in India, so we can relate to this, right? That instead of paying your taxes to the government, to where it goes, the tax collector comes and you give him a bribe, right? Then it's not the same. It's not. Maybe the tax collector gives a little of that to the boss, but he also kind of keeps some of it himself, right? So that's illegal, right? Right. So, and it's also for us, it's kind of a cheating propensity, because it usually means we give less money than we would if we actually paid taxes to the government, right? Right. You know, I mean, in Vrindavan, these two people who collected the house tax, they would always come around, and they just said, it says here you owe, you know, whatever, 3,000 rupees. It's okay. You know, give 300. Yeah. Or whatever, you know, whatever, like that. Yeah. And they didn't like me because I was like, no, I want to pay the right amount, you know. But I want to give it to you in a check, not in cash, right? And make it out to, you know, what is it? Mayapur, Mathura Vrindavan municipality or something like that. Yeah. We only take cash. You know. Right. So that's one example Srila Prabhupada gives about demigod worship. Right? That actually, if we want to be honest and do things pakka, do things proper, then we approach the source, Krishna. And then everyone else gets paid, the tax collectors get their salary, and everything works out nicely. But otherwise, the government doesn't run properly. So, as it is explained in the first shloka of the first chapter of the Bhagavatam, I know many of you could repeat that by heart. The supreme truth is self-sufficient. What is that? What is that word in that first verse? Swarat, right? Yes. Right. We all know that word from India, right? If Swaraj and Gandhi and all that, right? Swarat, independent, or self-sufficient. Cognizant, abhigya, right? And free from the illusion of reality. What's that? Did I say something? Did I read it? Did I say reality? Just seeing if you were awake. Free from the illusion of relativity, not free from the illusion of reality. In the relative world, the knower is different from the known, right? We just said that, right? Right? Yes. But in the absolute truth, both the knower and the known are one and the same. In the relative world, the knower is the living spirit or superior energy, whereas the known is inert matter or inferior energy, like me knowing that the clock is there or seeing the clock. Therefore, there is a duality of inferior and superior energy. Right? Whereas in the absolute realm, both the knower and the known are the same spiritual energy. Right? So this is explained a lot in the 13th chapter of the Gita. Right? Kshetra, and the two Kshetra Gyas. Right? We are the small Kshetra Gya, and then the Paramatma is the big, you know, all-pervading Kshetra Gya. And then the Kshetra is what? The body and material energy. Yes. Yeah. Kshetra Gya chapimam vidhi. Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata. That Krishna is the Sarva Kshetra. He knows all fields. There are three kinds of energies of the supreme energetic. There is no difference between the energy and the energetic, but there is a difference of quality of energies. The absolute realm and the living entities are of the same spiritual energy, but the material world is inferior energy. The living being in contact with the inferior energy is illusioned, thinking he belongs to the inferior energy. Therefore, there is this sense of relativity in the material world. In the absolute, there is no such sense of difference between the knower and the known, and therefore everything there is absolute. But it doesn't mean everything there is exactly one, because there's a difference between, so the, if we think in terms of Sat, Chit, Ananda, right? So which one, in terms of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, which one has the Sat realization? Brahman, right? And then Paramatma? Yeah, it's usually Sat and Chit, right? And then Bhagavan, Sat, Chit, and Ananda. So Krishna is, and therefore, what does Lord Brahma say about Govinda? Ishwara Parama Krishna, Sat, Chit, Ananda, Vigraha, form, right? Anadir, Adir Govinda, Sarva Karna Karnam. And so that one verse pretty much sums up everything, right? Krishna is the, Prabhupada would just say, it's a very simple logic. You have a father, you have parents, they have parents, they have parents, they have parents. You go back, and what's the origin of everything? Now, some people might say it's a singularity, right? In the latest scientific, right, or black hole, whatever. But even then, where did the singularity come from? No one can answer that, right? But Lord Brahma, if we accept his realization is very clear. Sarva Karna Karnam, of all the different causes. I'm caused by my parents, they're caused by their parents. You go back far enough, and Krishna is the Sarva Karna, he's the cause of all causes. Right? And he has an eternal body full of Sat, Chit, and Ananda. So that verse, and he's the Parama Ishvara, Supreme Ishvara. What's that verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita? Ekala Ishvara Krishna Arsabrit. Everyone else, even they say Balaram, right? And is servant. Everyone is a servant of Krishna. So this verse is important for Gaudiya Vaishnavas because it establishes the Bhagavan principle and makes it clear the sameness in terms of spiritual energy and the difference. So between Brahman realization and Krishna realization. So it's also a very important verse in presenting Lord Chaitanya's philosophy of Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva. Inconceivably, simultaneously, one and different. And we don't have to talk about it because it's inconceivable. We'll never figure it out anyway, right? But it's such a, it is. If one really deeply studies philosophy, it really answers all questions, ultimately, right? And if you think there's so many things that even in practical life, like I was thinking I may talk at 10 o'clock today about what Srila Prabhupada would often talk about, unity in diversity, right? Because we're talking about conflict resolution, and this was one of Prabhupada's main ways of solving conflicts, that we maintain unity but we allow for diversity. So that is one manifestation of Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva, right? It's not right? It's we're one, like you and I are one. We're both trying to be devotees of Krishna, and we both have the same, yeah. But we're also different. You grew up in a village. I grew up in New York City. Right? And we have so there's some differences, and you like sambar more than I like whatever soup, or right? But there's and Prabhupada would tell us that we have to maintain this philosophy of unity and diversity. Otherwise, he said, if we simply fight because of diversity, that's the material platform. That's an exact quote, by the way. That's a direct quote, right? So this verse, it even actually interesting. I wasn't thinking about this till just now, but in one sense, this verse even applies to conflict resolution, right? Because it allows for, in this oneness, this simultaneously there's Brahman, there's Paramatma, there's Bhagavan, there's this diversity even within this all spiritual energy. Like that. So it's a very, for many reasons, it's a very important verse. This and verse 28 of the 3rd chapter are considered the 2 key verses of the Bhagavatam. Ete Chang Sakalapam Sam, Krishna's 2 Bhagavan Sayam, because both of them really establish the Bhagavan principle. Right? Of course, there's so many important verses. The first verse is not a bad verse. So some thoughts on this? Of which book?
They offer that prayer. Yenye Ravindaksha Vimuktamaninas. And then ending with Nadata Yushmadangriha. That if persons who are thinking themselves advanced and liberated, they go to the Brahman platform, yet they fall down.
Right.
So my question is are the people that the demigod speaking about, are those the impersonalists, the Mayavadis, or the Brahmavadis in that way?
Well, I'm thinking of that letter that Srila Prabhupada wrote, famous for some people, the Tal fruit letter. You familiar with that? It's about the origin of the jiva. F-R-U-I-T. Let's see if I can find it real quickly. It's a letter, so it's under correspondence. This must be it. There's one place where he says, it's a very interesting letter. maybe we should go over it, even though talking about where we came from could go on forever. But we never had any occasion when we were separated from Krishna. In the sense that, right, if everything, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, one of those, we're always, right? Okay? Just like one man is dreaming and he forgets himself. In dream, he creates himself in different forms. Now I am the king, discussing like that. This creation of himself is as seer and subject matter as seen, 2 things. But as soon as the dream is over, the scene disappears, but the seer remains. Now he's in his original position. Now we could dissect that for hours, right? But our separation from Krishna is like that. We dream this body and so many relationships with other things. First, the attachment comes to enjoy sense gratification. Even with Krishna, desire for sense gratification is there. There is a dormant attitude for forgetting Krishna and creating an atmosphere for enjoying independently. So like at the edge of the beach, he's talking about tata or tatasta. Sometimes the water covers, sometimes there is dry sand coming and going. Our position is like that, sometimes covered, sometimes free, just like at the edge of the tide. As soon as we forget, immediately illusion is there. Just like as soon as we sleep, dream is there. We cannot therefore say that we are not with Krishna. As soon as we try to become Lord, immediately we are covered by Maya. Formerly we were with Krishna in his Leela or sport, but this covering of Maya may be very, 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 very long duration. Therefore, many creations are coming and going. Due to this long period of time, it is sometimes said that we are ever conditioned. But this long duration of time becomes very insignificant when one actually comes to Krishna consciousness. Just like in a dream, we are thinking very long time, but as soon as we awaken, we look at our watch and see it has been a moment only. You ever had that sometimes? You have a really long, like an intense dream, and it's really only been like 5 or 10 minutes? Just like with Krishna's friends, they were kept asleep for 1 year of Brahma, but when they woke up and Krishna returned before them, they considered that only a moment had passed. So I'm getting to your point in a sec. So this dreaming condition is called non-liberated life. And this is just like a dream. Although in this material calculation it is a very long period, as soon as we come to Krishna consciousness, then this period is considered as a second. For example, Jai and Vijay, they had their Leela with Krishna, but they had to come down for their little mistake. They were given mukti, emerging into Brahma Sayuja after being killed 3 times as demons. This Brahma Sayuja, but here's the point. This Brahma Sayuja mukti is not permanent. Every living entity wants pleasure, but Brahma Sayuja is minus pleasure. There is existence, eternal existence only. So when we do not find transcendental bliss, we fall down to make a compromise with material bliss. Okay, so that's kind of a long-winded way to answer your question. That even if one is, it seems to be here, Brahma Sayuja, right? Even if one is an impersonalist, one doesn't, rasa, we said this, we quoted this yesterday, rasa vai saha, that we're pleasure-seeking by nature. So eventually we'll seek pleasure elsewhere. Or, I guess if we can somehow, even in Brahman, have association with the devotee, then of course we can make progress. If there's devotees hanging around Brahman, maybe they go there for the weather or something. Just like who's moving to Alachua? She says she's going for the schools, but really, one more Chicago winter would be like, no way. Is that okay? Now, I know I read some things there that we could ask tons of more questions about, but this is one of the key, Prabhupada's main point, by the way, since we're kind of touching upon it, and this may not satisfy us totally intellectually, but really his main point about the origin of the jiva is mentioned in chapter 13, verse 20 of the Bhagavad Gita, in the purport, where he says, it really does not matter how the living entities or superior entities of the Supreme Lord have come in contact with material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead knows, however, how and why this actually took place. And he would often say, right, let's modernize it a little bit. Your car gets stuck in a ditch, right? You could philosophize. Let's see. I was going a little too fast around the corner, and right. But the real thing is, call the tow truck company and get out of the ditch, right? Not think, how did I get in this ditch in the first place? Right? The reason I say that is last week during Holi, we have a big Holi festival in DC. 5,000 people maybe come. It was really wonderful. And Adi Purush Prabhu, some of you know Adi Purush Prabhu, he was doing the ask a monk a question, and he had a line the whole time, people asking a question. It was great. Anyway, my job wasn't so glorious. My job was I was driving a van all day long. We have 150 volunteers, so driving the devotees, because we don't have parking like you guys have all around here. They have to go far away. So I was driving a van back and forth, and what I did was I rented a van for a day to do that, because I didn't want my car to have holy colors all over it, right? Yeah. The van once got stuck in a ditch. I was making a U-turn. My wife said, keep going, because it had just rained. Luckily, Madhuha Prabhu was there, and he figured out he had my son and all of his friends, they picked it up. But anyway, the point is, we didn't spend time saying, how did we get here, But we spent time getting out. So that's Prabhupada's main point. Because philosophically, it's again a Chincha Beta Beta Tattva, right? Because we could say, I wasn't planning on getting to the origin of the jiva here, right? But, from our minute intellect, we could say, well, if we were with Krishna, why would we leave, right? That's the other thing. And if we were in Brahman, or we were just eternally conditioned, why is Krishna playing like, Russian roulette with us? Oh, well, you're Sudama, you be in the spiritual, Jamuna Jiva, you go to the material world, I don't like you as much, right? So, right. So, Prabhupada is explaining his basic point is, and I think his main thing that he wants us to focus on is that we take responsibility, right? This is a big thing, right, in Prabhu? In your NVC, isn't that an important thing about taking responsibility, right? Yeah. So this is on the existential level, that we got here because we chose, not because it's we just like my wife. I think I told you she was a school principal. So, if let's say a child breaks one of the windows in the classroom, and the teacher is called a principal, and she walks in and said, "Who did this?" And every kid goes, right? They don't take responsibility, right? So we have to say that it's on us, that we're in the material world, and it's on us to choose to return to the spiritual world. Is that all right? Other questions? And anything except the origin of the jiva. Hold on a second. Wait, you gotta wait for the microphone. We want to, for the next 10,000 years, your voice will be heard.
Our philosophy says that Jiva is also Satchidananda, just like Krishna.
Yes.
We understand that our happiness is dependent on our bliss. In that sense, the Ananda is dependent on Krishna's bliss. And then our knowledge cannot be as complete as Krishna's knowledge. What about our eternality?
That's, no, that's kind of there. Anadi is Anadi is translated sometimes differently, or understood differently. I've read one place where it says there's a beginning but no end. Right? But I also read, where did I read this recently? That you can't say that we didn't. I mean, we do say, what is that verse about Lord Narayan, that he was the first to exist? Isn't that? Is it Narayan? Yeah. But anyway, we're eternal from now on. That's the main point to worry about. And we are ultimately kind of created by Krishna, because he says sarva karna karnam. But anadi is Prabhupada translated as what? Time immemorial. That's a long time. It's really, could you imagine just thinking about it? We close our eyes and we think that I was a rabbit and a demigod, and I've been up and down, Brahmande, Brahmate, Kon, Bhagyavan, right? That I've been all over these different, and who knows if it was just this universe, it might have been in other universes. I've been all over the place. So that's something that, we can meditate on. For example, when we, like in a few minutes, we'll be singing Guru Puja to Srila Prabhupada, right? And so that verse, Brahmande Brahmate Kon Bhagyavan Jeev. What does Bhagyavan mean in this case? Fortunate. It's really fortunate. We've been, if we really accept this, it takes some real meditation and prayer to really accept that I've been traveling all over this universe. And how did I get this fortune? Guru Krishna Kripaya Bhai Bhakti Bhakti, or Prasade Bhai, It's really amazing. So that's, I had never thought about that analysis before. Is Krishna more eternal than us? Well, in the sense that he's the cause of us, we could say that, yes. Right. And then Mataji gave Shri Radhika Mataji gave the example about the other 2 points, right? The drop of salt water in the ocean. So we have the same qualities, but in different quantity. Is that right? Yes, microphone.
Towards the end of the puppet, Prabhupada talks about the 3 different energies, so the superior, inferior, and marginal.
Mm-hmm.
and he says that there's no difference between the energy and energetic, but there's a difference of quality of energies. So we understand that everything is spiritual, and my doubt is, what is that difference in the quality of the inferior and marginal energy from the superior if everything is spiritual, in fact?
Well, okay, so I was thinking about that very sentence while preparing for class. And my understanding is that, just like Druta Karma Prabhu once gave a really nice seminar on the different levels of God realization in the Bhagavad Gita, right? So my understanding of what Prabhupada is saying here is that, yes, so for Uttama Adhikari, right, does anyone know that verse? Stavaram Jagamam Deki? Know the rest of it? Right? And Istadeva Spurti, yes. The same thing with me. I forget those. Yeah. But can someone find it? Stavaram? I mean, I guess I could find it probably as quickly anyway. How do you spell Stavaram? S-T-A-V-A-R-A. No. Anyway, you can find it. That verse is basically saying is that a Mahabhagavat doesn't see just the external things. They see everything ultimately as really Krishna, right? And that's the Mahabhagavat. So my understanding with Prabhupada is, so in half of the sentence he's talking about that, and the other half he's talking about the more of the Madhyama vision, right? Like our vision, right? We make a big distinction, right? We don't say everything's Krishna's energy. So, I mean, I'll still be a vegetarian, but I'll eat at McDonald's. Right? No, we say no. I'm not going to do that because we have principles, we have ethics, we have so many things in this world that we try to follow. We see the difference between Maya and Krishna consciousness, right? And did you find it? Sarvatrahoy, that's what we miss. And what is it in translation? Right. So that's my understanding, is that one place he's talking about that, and that means you see everything spiritually, but then he's making the differentiations for that the Madhyama or Kanishta needs to see, that we do make differentiations. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And then another question, then how is it that the inferior energy is of an inferior quality, or that marginal energy like us, we make bad choices? I guess because of free will.
Yeah, because of free will.
So there's always free will, even though we are superior energy, really. And
right.
we're
Right. So even we ultimately are pure lovers of God, and we are that kind of consciousness but we're not there yet. That time when Prabhupada was calling someone a rascal, and the person said, "Where is your Samadarshana? Where is your Samadarshana?" And Prabhupada says, "This is my Samadarshana. You're a rascal." Right? Yeah. So. Yeah. So we apply Samadarshana, and that was Samadarshana in one sense, because he's, really, as we were talking about yesterday, I believe, that what was Prabhupada's motive in chastising that person? It wasn't just to feel good about chastising someone. He was actually seeing him as a spirit soul and wanting to elevate him, but he chose that this is the technique that's going to help that person in their conditioned consciousness, to call him a rascal. Right? Yes, Mataji?
Hare Krishna, Bhante. goes a little beyond our Bhagavatam description of the Brahma Jyoti. This is in the 10th canto when Krishna and Arjuna went and retrieved the Brahmana's sons. Then they are entering the Brahma Jyoti. Then as they enter the Brahma Jyoti, Krishna describes the Brahma Jyoti to Arjuna, and that is, the details are quoted from Harivamsha in the same section.
Okay.
And it says, Krishna's description of this Brahma Jyoti, it sort of, I just feel amazed by that one. That is, this divine expansion of Brahman effulgence you have seen is none other than myself, O best of the Bharatas. It is my own eternal effulgence.
Acha. Yeah, that's right. It's Krishna's.
Yeah,
That's right.
and then,
That's an important point we missed.
Yeah, and then it goes little beyond. One more verse is there. It comprises my eternal spiritual energy, both manifest and unmanifest. The foremost yoga experts of this world enter within it and become liberated.
Wonderful.
And then we think of Krishna as Sarva Karana Karanam. In the next verse, Krishna says, it is the supreme goal of the followers of Sankhya, O Partha, as well as that of the yogis and ascetics. It is the supreme absolute truth, manifesting the varieties of the entire created cosmos.
And this is from Harivamsa?
Harivamsha.
You have that on your phone?
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah. So you should understand.
You didn't memorize it though?
In the purport. It is in the purport.
Okay.
So Krishna is saying this. Brahma Jyoti is the cause of manifestation of the varieties of the universe, the cosmos.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
What a good way to end. And now go to have darshan of Shri Radha Madhava, the Bhagavan, and the source of Brahman and Paramatma. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.